This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. Let's talk about the March 22nd edition of Raw. There's a draft lottery held. Because of that, you've got stars from both shows here. It's kind of cool at the time. Triple H is in full blown Reign of Terror mode. He just dropped the belt to Benoit. So everybody thinks that Eddie Guerrero, when he has a match with Triple H, that Triple H is going to win. But in fact, Eddie wins by DQ. And then a big brawl erupts between both brands. In March, Eddie starts a feud with a fellow Texan, a guy by the name of John Bradshaw Layfield. JBL has interrupted Guerrero's title match with Booker T, and the rivalry turns personal when at a famous non-televised live event on May 2nd in El Paso, JBL causes Eddie's mother to suffer a kayfabe heart attack while in attendance at ringside. But Eddie's mom looks like she's having a heart attack because, well, she nearly was. And we've told the story before in our archives, but it's worth telling again now here, Bruce.
Well, we went down to El Paso on Mother's Day, where the Guerreros were from. Eddie and I had Chico's Tacos that day. And if you're ever in El Paso, check out Chico's Tacos. As you say, the whole thing was Eddie gives his mom, they recognize Eddie's mom with a beautiful Mother's Day bouquet. Then the next thing that you know is Bradshaw's there to spoil it. And John ends up, the mother like went to hit John or something like that. And John touched her, but just like literally touched her arm. And she was to appear as though she were having a heart attack. And lo and behold, she got so excited in the moment that she pretty much had symptoms of a heart attack. And her real life doctor was there because we were going to use him as the doctor in this whole thing. I thought Eddie was going to kill me, but, yeah, it was, Eddie in the back, just, you know, he loves his mom so much and he was so protective of her. But then Chavo Classic was there, and Chavito and Chavo Classic is like, oh, hey man, we should get some on mom and, you know, like let John put the boost to her, man. And then nobody's touching my mother. It's like, nah, man, she's tough, man. She got this. So Chavo Sr. and Eddie are going at it. It was a wonderful evening. But we got Bradshaw out of there as soon as that angle was done because there was a pretty upset crowd. And John got out of there with the help of the Texas State troopers, Highway Patrol, got him out of town. Go. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just go in your wrestling gear. Get the fuck out of town.
Judgment Day, which we've covered before in the archives, is such a monumental show. Guerrero defends his WWE title against JBL, retaining the title after getting himself disqualified. But that's not the story. The match saw Guerrero bleed so much. I mean, it looks like he hit a fucking artery. And after the match concludes, he goes backstage and supposedly passed out, goes into shock. We've talked about this before, but it's worth touching on again. This went from, hey, this was an incredible match and what a story, to, oh no, we've got a real life medical event here.
Yeah, it was kind of scary, man. Eddie came back, and I remember the trail of blood just all the way back to the trainer's room. And Eddie was getting checked out by the doctor, and they were like, you've lost a lot of blood. We need to get you in and get staples or stitches or something, but we've got to get you to the hospital. And I think with the amount of blood that Eddie had lost, he was kind of giving in on it. And the doctor started to prepare him to get in the ambulance and go to the hospital with IVs and different things. And Eddie just out of at some point realizes that he's got all these IVs sticking in him and freaks out in the trainer's room, rips out the IVs and pushes everybody away and storms out. And I'm standing there for a minute, and it just, the only two people that went to go confront Eddie was myself and Michael Hayes. And this is a sick business sometimes, and what you find humor in. But as Michael and I are going down to talk to Eddie, and Eddie's down the way, and I'm trailing behind Michael Hayes, and I just start to laugh, and he turns and says, "What are you laughing at?" I said, well, first of all, look at this trail of blood that you and I are following, and a Freebird and Brother Love are now trying to chase down Eddie Guerrero to get him to go back and get his head stitched up and go to the hospital. And it just was funny in the moment. And I'm running back and forth, and I remember that X-Pac was there talking to Hunter. It was one of the first times that they had been together in many years, and I think X-Pac asked Hunter, he says, "What's going on there, man?" He goes, "Bruce and Michael are running back and forth." And he goes, "I don't know. It must be important, though, because they're fucking running. Well, at least they're moving faster than normal." But that's where, I went in, talked to Eddie, and Eddie was afraid to go to the hospital. And I think part of his fear was that they would give him medication, and he didn't want to take the medication. He didn't want to be in a position to be dependent again. Didn't want to get anything that he may like that he would want to be dependent on again. But like a small child, he looked at me and he said, "Will you go to the hospital with me?" And I said, "Of course I will, Eddie. But I need you to go down and let them do their job first, because you'll get in and get taken care of a lot quicker if you go in the ambulance." Okay. And he was just like a little kid. So we're trying to get him cleaned up, and we get him down, get him back. And then Eddie goes, "Hey, Bruce, man, I'm really sorry. Would you mind if Chavito went with me instead?" I said, "Whatever you want, I'll make it happen." And so we had Chavo go with him in the ambulance, and I took all of Eddie's stuff and went back to our hotel and got Eddie in an adjacent room with me, put all his shit up in his room, and then ordered him food so that when he came home, and kept the door open just to make sure. But I stayed up till 4 o'clock or whatever it was, waiting for Eddie to get back with Chavo, and basically put him to bed and make sure he called Vicky and let her know that he was okay. So it was, it was a hell of a night.
It's a big deal. And, the real life event impacted, the following episode of SmackDown, teaming alongside Rey Mysterio and Rob Van Dam against the trio of the Dudleys and JBL. Guerrero passed out mid-match. Unlike at the pay-per-view, this was part of the story, and some fans complained online that it was in poor taste. Your response?
Fuck you.
At the Great American Bash, Eddie defended the title against JBL in a Texas bull rope match. JBL wins after Angle reverses the decision. I should mention Angle is the general manager of SmackDown at the time. After Guerrero appeared to have retained the title, rumor and innuendo was Guerrero felt he was shouldering the burden of low pay-per-view buys on SmackDown events at the time and asked Vince to have the title taken off of him. Do you remember this? That Eddie may have felt the pressure that for whatever reason, the buys weren't there for the pay-per-views, and he took it personally and couldn't really deal with the pressure. And because he was in recovery, maybe that's not a great spot for somebody like that to be.
I think that he was feeling the pressure, but also at the same time, we were looking to get the new character JBL over. It was, it was a perfect storm in that regard. And Eddie felt that John needed the championship much more than he did. And also took it as a challenge to, I'll get him over. But, business wasn't terrible at that time. So it wasn't, look, that's one of those hindsight 2020 people speculate and say these things. Being there, this was a born out of, I really want to get Layfield over. How do we do it? No one would call that. Nobody was going to call that Layfield would beat Eddie. And Eddie's like, yeah, he should. He needs it more than I do.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.